about opportunities, even about in terms of private education. Some people here already know that I like to get involved because I know that I can make a difference.
Thank you so very much. Our next speaker, it's very pleasant to, very happy to introduce our next speaker. He's a former principal, school principal, former school administrator, former school board member, and he is the face of the Maine Girl Dads. Please welcome Mr. Josh Tabor.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm actually a current school board member in York County, fighting the good fight, and it's a hell of a fight going on. So anyone that's a school board member, know that you have other people in the battle with you. But yeah, I am Josh Tabor. I am a Maine Girl Dad, proudly standing here as a Maine Girl Dad. I have 4 wonderful daughters, and my number one job is to protect my daughters. You know, I used to believe that schools were partners in protecting my daughters, right? The educational institutions were actually interested in protecting my daughters. My, oh my, what an idiot I was. Our public schools discourage my daughters from living out the morals and values I have worked tirelessly to instill in them since they were born. I have taught them to accept their bodies and celebrate their bodies as a gift, and that they will learn to love and appreciate as they grow older. I have taught them to respect their bodies and other people's bodies by practicing privacy. I have taught them to avoid situations when their conscience tells them it is unsafe. I refuse to believe that my effort to instill these morals and values into my daughters makes me an outlier. I do not affirm children's beliefs when they are in the process of developing. Rather, I guide and encourage my daughters to fight against the temptations of their desires as a way of strengthening their resolve to become strong, dependable, and responsible women. The current Maine Principals Association Gender Identity Participation Policy provides no guidance to schools except to say that students who disclose how they feel about their identity can play whatever gendered sport they want to play, until they decide they no longer identify with that particular gender. This short-sighted policy causes confusion, discomfort, and puts our daughters at physical risk. Does the Maine Principals Association not think that trans women, in other words biological males, exhibit physiological, anatomical, morphological, and hormone differences as compared to biological females? These are the undeniable facts that differentiate one sex from the other. And these biological facts cannot be eliminated with hormone therapies, regardless of how long an adolescent takes them. The development, I think we can all agree with this, the development of children and adolescents is a long, challenging, and private matter for families. Growing children are meant to be protected and cherished in the privacy of a family. They are not meant to be virtue-signaling social justice pawns for pushing certain beliefs or agendas.
There you go. There you go. Stand up, speak up. There you go. Definitely. Thank you very much, Maine Girl Dads. Our next speaker is on in Washington, D.C. and with Title IX. Please welcome my friend, Robert Bobby Charles.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for everybody being here. By the way, I am a girl dad, too. My daughter would probably like to be here, but I'm going to keep it fairly short. You know, if you had told me 5 years ago that we'd have to have a rally here to say that boys are boys and girls are girls, I'd say you need to do some more ice fishing, man. Honest to God, what are we doing here? I'm going to keep it very short. The truth never changes. You know, Winston Churchill said something like, the truth is incontrovertible. Malice can attack it, ignorance can deride it, but at the end of the day, what do you got? The truth is still there. We are the truth. This is the heartbeat of Maine right here. And you are also the future of Maine. So I just want to make 2 points. One is civil rights law, and, you know, I'm a recovering attorney. Civil rights law doesn't change either. It is crystal clear. This governor and all these legislators and anyone who ever went to law school knows what I'm saying. Civil rights law for 50 years, since 1972, says, Title IX and Title VII, it says girls are biological girls. That's it, okay? It doesn't change. Supreme Court cases, one after another. Even before Trump became president, a law case just was handed down in January that said, called Tennessee versus Cardona, you don't care, but that's what it's called. It said unequivocally that the Biden redefinition of sex was wrong. It's a federal case. Did Janet not read that case? I don't know. She should have. She was going to meet with the president. She should have read it. Okay? The last thing is the executive order. It is the law. Males are males. Females are females. Okay? Second big point. Think about this for a second. This governor, Janet Mills, and the 52% of the Democrats in the legislature who are women all benefited from Title IX. She went to law school as one of the first women in law school in '73 because of Title IX. She was one of the first assistant district attorneys because, and she says it in her own history, in her verbal history, oral history, she says she got there, she was the first woman in Maine to be an assistant. Where do you think that came from? That was Title IX. And you know what else? She would not be the governor if it were not for Title IX. So we got to protect the kids, we got to protect the girls, and we got to remember that the truth never goes away. The only other thing I'll say is you cannot opt into civil rights law. I cannot go out and break my arm, put it in a cast for 6 weeks, claim I'm disabled under civil rights law, and then go run in the Special Olympics and win all the gold medals because my legs are still good. You can't do that. Civil rights law is for protecting girls. Title IX is for protecting girls. I want to just thank you, every single person here, and tell you that the biggest fights are ahead of us. Thank you for the signs. Let's go and let's win this state back. In 2026, make this entire state red. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Before we move on to our next speaker, I'd like to bring up a state representative from up north a little bit, up in the Hodgson area, to say a couple of words and say hello. Please welcome State Representative Tracy Quint.
Thank you all so much. Honestly, I feel a lot of the female legislators could cry right now because I'm looking around and I see a sea of men. And I am utterly delighted. I see young men going all through the gamut. I see older men. And it's so thrilling to see you all. Men of Maine, it is time to rise up and fight for your women. Do it. Fight for your women and your girls. Do not let them silence you any longer. Not about abortion, not about sports, not about anything. Fight it for your women. Thank you for being here. I'm telling you guys, I just want a ball. I'm so delighted to see you. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, thank you. Not too many. Has it been broadcasted? No. Why? Why do we not hear about these girls getting injured? So let's just back up the bus for a second. The Maine Principals Association, one of their missions is to secure safety. I would say they're failing on their mission, wouldn't you? And I would encourage you to send a letter to the Maine Principals Association. Check out that QR code, please, before you leave, so we can send a letter to them. You can send letters. We can send all these letters to them. We are applying pressure because they are the governing body over athletics. So here's the issue. When you have a young woman who decides she wants to be an athlete, and she has a lot of natural talent, and therefore is excelling at a young age, and she continues, she at some point comes to the place where she's going to just focus on what her goals are, and she has to put aside a lot of things that could come her way, things that she could be doing and taking advantage of. She sets a priority. She puts her head down and she goes. Obstacles come, challenges come, head down and press on. To have an elite athlete, they start to show themselves in high school. I've been a lifelong coach, I've seen them. And then they're on the playing field, and usually they're the ones that are most aggressive, and they get injured. I know one, very dear to me, sustained a concussion and a spinal injury in soccer. It wasn't reported. The coach even put her back in. And yet, we have these policies pressing forward. Where is the Maine Principals Association for our injured girls? Why are coaches not reporting this? Why are they sweeping it under the rug? It does not fit the narrative. Thank you. Did I even give you a cue card? That was pretty good. So I'm urging parents here, grandparents, anyone that's here, that QR code behind me, thank you. Send the letter. And did you like the Maine girl dads? Josh Tabor, that was phenomenal. I think I picked the right person to lead the charge on this. So just to give you a little secret behind the story of the Maine girl dads, so I'm no longer in the legislature. How many knew that? I'm done. They kicked me to the curb. I was termed out. So I immediately began this organization called the Maine Education Initiative, and Mike alluded to it. And no, we don't have a website yet because but they're going to carry this forward. The battle is for freedom and liberty, our right to express ourselves, right? Isn't that right? Yes. So folks, please find something and do something. And thank you all for coming. But now I get the distinct honor of introducing our special guest speaker, Chloe Cole. Chloe, I think some people know who you are. So I'm very excited, having been involved in working with young women for nearly, boy, if I tell you how long, it's going to tell you how old I am. 40 years. And it touches my heart deeply when I see these young women standing up and displaying courage. And I was just talking to Chloe because I couldn't remember how long she's been doing this. But I remember one of her very first interviews, and it just brought tears to my eyes because we already here in Augusta were working with detransitioners and trying to bring light to issues that were in front of my education committee several years ago. And to hear her story and to see her courage, this is what we need more of. People, consider the cost and then press on, because you got to do the right thing. So Chloe has come here. She's been all over the place. I don't know if you guys saw down in DC, there was a detransitioning day a couple of days ago. She's been all over the country. She's originally from California, but she's bopping all over the place, sharing her message, sharing her vision, giving hope to all kinds of young people. And I am amazingly fortunate to be able to introduce her to all of you. So thank you, Chloe, for being here.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you all for being here. I've been told that this is a pretty big rally for Maine, but to be honest, this is a pretty big rally for anywhere, and I'm from California. Well, this certainly is not California weather, but I can tough it out. My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a 20-year-old detransitioned woman from the Central Valley of California. Now, I often talk about the gender issue from the perspective of somebody who has detransitioned and about the medical and legislative side of it. So you guys might be surprised that I actually have something to say about the women's sports side of things. Well, when I was a little girl, I was a tomboy. I always aligned a little bit more with the boys around me, with their interests, with my male role models, and I actually aspired throughout a lot of my childhood to become a female athlete. But transgenderism took away my opportunity to become that. For many years of my childhood, I was made to feel that my natural athleticism, that my musculature, my tomboyish tendencies had made me less of a female, that it took away from me. And that because I was like this, because I was unique, because I was strong and stubborn, that maybe I would have been better off and happier as a young man. Believing that I wasn't actually supposed to be my mom and dad's daughter, but instead their son. I was led down the route of medical transition as a child. I was put on puberty blockers, rather chemical castration drugs at 13, alongside steroids, and my breasts were surgically removed when I was 15 years old, before I could even legally drive a car, before I had a permit. And while I was gaining muscle, strength, agility, while I was on testosterone, in the long term, all of these treatments have weakened my body and made it difficult for me to bounce back to the degree of fitness that I was at before. I medically detransitioned at the age of 16 when I realized that all of this was a mistake, that this never should have happened to me in the first place, but also that I was beautiful the way that I was. And I've tried my best to go back as much as I can, but the truth is that these treatments are completely irreversible. The blockers, the testosterone, the surgery, and even the psychological transition itself are something that I'm still grappling with the effects of 4 years later. And among many things, I'm experiencing joint and spinal and nerve issues. You'll often see the girls and women who are on these treatments starting to have to use canes and wheelchairs and mobility devices when they're in their mid-teens to early 20s. Because what these treatments do is literally cripple the body. At 13 years old, these adults around me, these doctors who are supposed to help me and my family get through what should have just been a minor speed bump in my life at that point. Whether my transition or becoming an athlete was going to be more important to me. But I was led to believe that this was life-saving care for me. That I had a chronic affliction that somehow actually made me a boy, that this was my only treatment, and that this was the basis of my identity. So of course, I took the route of transitioning. Now, having been on these treatments myself, I have a bit of a unique perspective on how the male and female body differ. I took testosterone, which is a Schedule III controlled substance and a known performance-enhancing drug. Even as a preteen girl, I understood that by taking these treatments, it would change my body. And even though I would be stronger than the other girls, I never would be able to compete with the boys either, because of my innate biological differences. Testosterone would not be able to change my reality. I knew that I would have an unfair advantage over the other girls, but also, on the other hand, I would still be too weak to compete with the opposite sex. And that I probably would fail my physical in the first place by being on a performance-enhancing drug. If I, as a 13-year-old girl, could reason all of this, it's clear that these older boys and these grown men who are choosing to compete against little girls and women can do the very same. They understand the danger that they are putting the women around them in. And yes, these young men may be struggling a lot in their personal lives. And they deserve proper counseling that doesn't involve lying to them. But it's not our responsibility to indulge in their delusion that they actually are female. It appears that many schools and these sports organizations have been severely misled about what it means to actually be compassionate and to create a fair playing field for their students and their athletes. They've been convinced that because the minority of their students deeply struggle with their identity and their mental health, they must bend the knee completely to their desires. This just is not true. It's not compassionate to lie to a mentally ill man and encourage him to go down a route of personal, lifelong destruction. It certainly is not compassionate to the girls around him to facilitate his intrusion into their intimate spaces, to allow him to be amongst them as they do activities that they never would want to with a stranger male. Changing, showering, using the restroom, to put the opposing team at a serious disadvantage and to put every other girl at grave risk of being severely injured and losing educational opportunities. Maine's Human Rights Act was amended 4 years ago to include gender identity as a protected characteristic. But we all understand that it is not a human right for a man to assert himself as a woman and to infringe upon real women's fairness, privacy, and safety. But it clearly is a right for girls and women to have every single one of those things to be protected. As women, our Title IX protections are being violated right now, and they have been for years, under the guise of helping a protected class of people. Gender ideology is a complete subversion of basic reality. And it hurts everybody involved. Every institution that it has touched, it has completely destroyed. But there's a cultural revolution right now, and it is clear that the public is absolutely sick of gender ideology's destructive tenets. We are sick of being lied to. We are sick of having our families disrupted, of having our children ripped away from us, their innocence ripped away from them at increasingly young ages, and our girls and women around us losing our right to privacy and fairness. But our country is rapidly changing. Trump has released an executive order to keep men out of women's sports. And this is going to be a major first step in not only protecting the classes of both sexes, but also the fairness between them. But an executive order is just that. It is not a law. We need to go further and codify it on the federal level and on the state level. Because organizations like the MPA have decided that they're going to violate these federal directives to continue allow boys and men to disrupt the fairness that we as women deserve and had fought for decades. We need legislation to protect women's rights, to protect the rights of our girls and of our children, to be supported, to pass through, to be defended in the courts, to ensure that the progress that we have made will not be in vain, that it cannot just easily be thrown into the trash. And I believe that Trump has said it best. We need to continue to fight, 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 fight. And every single one of us has a role in this battle. Absolutely. And we have a role in that. So let's continue in this fight until the very end. Until the end of the finish line, when this ideology is completely eradicated from our public spaces, from our institutions, and no children, no young girls and women are being hurt in the name of gender ideology ever again in the United States. Thank you all so much for the warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chloe. In closing, what I would like to say is that there are a lot of people that are fighting in this building behind me right here that are fighting the fight to ensure that we keep boys out of girls' sports. Other than the state representatives that you've seen speak today, in the crowd we have some others. We have State Representative Alicia Collins, State Representative Shelley Rudnicki. Behind me I've seen State Representative Michael Lemlin, State Representative Michael Lance, State Representative Jim Thorne. There are a lot of people that are fighting in this building behind us to protect girls in sports. I'd like to say thank you very much for every one of you for coming and supporting this incredible day. And I just want to say in closing that President Trump, for those of you who saw the address the other night, said the most beautiful words. Children, ladies, boys and girls, you are beautiful the way that God made you. And he was completely right. Thank you very much for coming. God bless you. God bless the state of Maine. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you, everybody.
And just one last thing, if you brought it with you, please take it back out with you. We have a good reputation with the Capitol Police. Thank them on the way out the door. They're always on our back. And if you want it with you, take it with you when you go out, please.